Hey, welcome back to the Infamous Podcast. This is Brian.
This is Daryl.
And this is episode 480. And I just realized I did not put a title on this episode. So let's go to the chat GPT. It gave me 5 options. I'm going to let you pick from the 5. Are you ready?
Okay.
Option 1, scripts, sabotage, and soap opera bots. Number 2,
No.
Guns Truth, Bot Therapy, and Mobland Buzz. Number 3, Industry Crash, AI Crash Landing, and Dad Drama. I don't even know what that means.
No, that's no.
No script, no mercy, no spoilers. And then from Hollywood Spills to Murderbot Thrills.
Oh hell no.
No.
The second and the
Do I?
the second and the read the second one again.
Guns Truth, Bot Therapy, and Mobland Buzz. And you said the 4th one?
Yeah.
No script, no mercy, no spoilers.
Huh.
I'm going to go ahead and put a human touch on this one. Let's call this one James Gunn Calls Out Marvel.
That's yeah. I mean that's going to be the main buzz or the main focus. So that's perfect.
Hold on. I have to update the ChatGPT real quick with the title that I chose. Anyway, so how are you?
It's Wednesday. It's my pseudo Friday.
Oh, nice. So
I don't know what you call it when you have a day off in the middle of the week and then you have to go to work the next day.
So I did that. Monday was like a pseudo Friday for me because I was off on Tuesday, which was pretty exciting. I went shooting at a gun range, and it was a lot of fun. And I got to shoot some really cool guns.
Nice.
And,
yeah, I probably need to get back up to my gun range in the very soon because it's been a few months since I shot my AK or my AK, my AR.
Yeah. And I also got like some actual instruction. And like now with a little practice, I will get rid of several bad habits that I had. So, one of those bad habits was definitely like not waving the gun around. It was just kind of like how, like my stance and kind of like how I was bringing the gun up. Like pretty much the only thing I had going for me was my grip. So, but that being said, with all that, like I was still a pretty decent shot before. So you can just imagine.
Yeah. I know my grip is fine. But I can usually tell, even though it's like I know enough about body mechanics and I've watched enough shooting, not in movies, but actually real shooting, to kind of get that, okay, I'm not doing something right. And I can feel right away if a shot's off. It's that I don't have the knowledge to say, okay, this is exactly why it was off. You know, although I will say it's really cool that, and the place you went probably had them too, but like some of the targets they have, depending on where you shoot, it kind of gives you like a cheat code.
No, we were outside, so we were shooting steel, and then.
But no, I'm talking about when you've gone.
No, I use those. Yeah, that's actually the paper I get is the one that shows me where, what I'm doing wrong. Like you're
kind of
pulling
like
to
the cheat code. Yeah. Which I didn't know about those until the last time I went. I was because I'd gone several times, and I'm like, oh, these are cool.
So
I was like, oh yeah, that's okay. So yeah.
And then I got to shoot with like a pistol brace, basically, like that turned the the gun into like a little mini rifle, and now I want one.
Well, none of that's as cool as Murderbot's weapons. So.
No, Murderbot's weapons are
I kind of want those.
Cooler. Yes.
Hey, put the surgery on me. I'll do it.
You'll do it.
I'll be walking around with forearm cannons.
You're ready to go full Murderbot.
But I don't want to be like a Ken doll in that respect.
You never go full Murderbot.
Yeah, that's why I said I don't want to be like the Ken doll because he doesn't have. Male organs.
I'm just a dude playing another dude who's playing another dude. Anyway, so this week on the episode, we're talking about James Gunn's interview from Rolling Stone this week. We're going to pull a couple things out of it, mainly to talk about. But I do actually, I'm actually pretty positive on most of what he said, especially in the full interview.
Absolutely.
And,
yes.
and you know, I know we've been relatively down on James Gunn. So, you know, there's that. But with all of that being said, I highly recommend,
yes, in
all fairness, going and reading the very long, full of all things Rolling Stone interview. It was really good. And like kind of, it puts me in the right direction. I'm still not interested in Superman, but they canceled a movie already, and he hasn't said which one, because they didn't pull a Kathleen Kennedy or a Disney in general and just go announce, we're going to do these 11 movies. It's just like, we're going to do 11 movies. These are the 3 we're doing right now. We'll tell you when we have the next ones ready to go. You know, it's just that kind of thing I really like.
Yeah, I will say, though, we're not really down on Gunn in the sense of talent-wise and making bad movies. We have legitimate concerns with James Gunn, and again, I've even said this, I think, like, will it be a good movie? Based on his track record, it'll be good and entertaining. Will it be a good Superman movie? And that's the important thing. I keep going back to Zack Snyder. I love that movie, Man of Steel.
Right.
As an action movie, as a superhero movie. It's not the movie that should have been a Superman movie. Correct. I know he was trying to do something different.
Wait.
But it was not a Superman movie.
You're talking about Man of Steel.
Yes, and that's from someone who loves that movie.
So the problem with Man of Steel wasn't even that. It was the fact that, like, it was never meant to be the opening salvo of a shared universe.
Well, yes. Again, this goes with the whole planning thing. Mm-hmm. However, what I'm saying is I know what his plan was, and I would have loved for him to realize it. But even if you're starting off, even if this was like it's supposed to be a trilogy of just Superman, not DCU or whatever,
right?
That's not what we want to see as a Superman movie. As Superman, I thought it was a fantastic action superhero movie. I love Henry Cavill, all that. But and again, yes, his parents were monsters. We get that too. Which again, that's at the core identity of it not being a Superman movie, because Jonathan and Martha Kent were never monsters.
Right. No.
No.
But those were the parents that raised Brightburn. Anyway, but yeah, so let's like hop right into the James Gunn stuff, and we'll get to Murderbot and everything here in a little bit. But I know we kind of just gave a little brief overview, but so basically what's happening here, just kind of like the TLDR, right? Gunn is warning that the movie industry is dying because studios keep starting making a movie without a finished script, and then they just kind of like fall apart because they don't have a script. I think there's a couple really good examples of what he's talking about, and I'm actually going to give a non-Marvel version, and that is the last 2 Mission Impossible movies.
Mm-hmm.
They were still writing the script as they were making the movies.
I don't care what movie it is.
Yeah.
That is a terrible thing to do.
Right.
Again, we all know that yes, you can have a script and they do make changes to script. That's natural, that's organic.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to have everything lined up so you can make those changes and it makes sense. And you can look at the changes you make and say, how is this going to affect something down the line?
Right.
It's a terrible, and I know there are probably so many examples of that and it's not to say that doesn't work sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
That's just I don't care if it works sometimes.
Right.
It's a terrible idea. And I like how Gunn says, you know what, we don't start anything until I'm satisfied with the script.
Right.
I really appreciate that. And despite my reservations of what we're going to get.
James Gunn cancel the Batgirl movie?
Yeah, actually.
Was it James Gunn who did that?
Was it James Gunn? I thought it was, but I might be mistaken. I'm not 100% certain. And they fridged Batgirl.
Okay. Yeah. This is from January 31st, 2023. New DC boss says canceling Batgirl was the right move. The film was not releasable. So yeah, it was James Gunn and
Safran.
Peter Safran. So you know, so I mean, right there, and we gave them credit for that because that's a hard thing to do, to just go forth and cancel, right? Mm-hmm. But what he's talking about, like with Marvel as an example, is it really wasn't fair to the creators because Marvel had Marvel turned into an assembly line in the worst possible way. Right?
Well, not Marvel, Disney.
Well, no, because it's still Marvel. It's
no. Why I said Disney? Yeah. Look at Star Wars. They had the same ideological assembly line.
We're going to do this many movies a year. We're going to do this many TV shows a year. Yeah.
Right.
Marvel just did way more than Star Wars.
Oh, Marvel. Yeah. Marvel it's so far. Yeah.
But he's talking about how that increased output wasn't fair to the creators, which is true. I mean, if you look, he did Guardians 1 and 2, right? Then he got fired. And then he came back and did the Christmas special. And then he did Guardians 3, or it was all kind of done at the same time, I assume. Which I haven't watched that Christmas special because I heard it was really bad.
Don't.
I mean,
you're not missing
it's probably
anything.
like the Star Wars one, right?
Just god awful. Better than yeah.
So,
but the Kevin Bacon stuff is actually pretty funny, but it's not good. It's not good at all.
But yeah, so I mean, I think this is a good thing to hear, and you know, I also though the Supergirl movie, for example, is based on a really poorly received Tom King miniseries, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, and we'll get to that in a second. So I do want to say, and he calls this out in the article, and again, I appreciate. He said sometimes it's going to be a hit and sometimes it's going to be a miss, but we're going to put out things that we believe in.
Right.
Roughly. But he was like, I do believe the reason why the movie industry is dying is not because people not wanting to see movies, Gunn said. It's not because of home screens getting so good. The number one reason is because people are making movies without a finished screenplay. Gunn noted that DC Studios already recently killed a project because the script just couldn't get to the right place. He explains, everybody wanted to make the movie. It was greenlit, ready to go. The screenplay wasn't ready, and I couldn't do a movie where the screenplay is not good. And we've been really lucky so far because Supergirl's script was so fucking good off the bat. And the Lanterns came in, and the script was so fucking good. Clayface, same thing. So fucking good. So we have these scripts, and we've been really lucky with. Otherwise, our choices or whatever the combination is. So, it's one of those things where it's I love hearing that. That's refreshing to hear from modern Hollywood.
Yeah. And we know modern Hollywood in the sense of, again, going back to your, and I think that was the best way to put it, the assembly line. You can't do that with creativity, with
Right.
something along those lines. It's
Right.
because you lose creativity and you become generic. And again, you add to that people not giving, but well, I guess giving opportunities. I'm a fan of giving opportunities to
Yeah.
people. Don't get me wrong. But
Unless
people that are not ready.
Unless they're named Malcolm Spellman. I don't think he should get any more opportunities.
And you look at it, and what do we get, and what have we been getting? And again, a lot of this is focused on Marvel and Disney with Star Wars, but you can look at Hollywood in general in the sense of we get derivative, like generic type stuff where there's so little creativity. And again, I know there's a lot of creative people in Hollywood. How many of those people are getting shut down?
Maybe 8.
How many people are getting shut down though?
Yeah.
Because it's like, again, it's all about the bottom dollar, and they're not taking chances. We're not getting everything everywhere all at once. We're not getting Sinners. We're not
not even getting Love Hurts.
Love Hurts, or a Nobody, which or
Nobody, absolutely. Like you said, Sinners. I do think though part of what this issue is they're giving opportunities to people who have no experience, so they're not able to finish what they're doing. And I'm gonna pick on Malcolm Spellman like it's nobody's business right now. Virtue Signal and The Neutered Soldier was one of the worst paced TV shows I've ever watched.
Yes.
It had a couple bright moments, and those were episodes that he didn't write, but he directed, which was, bad enough. But you look at all the reshoots that Virtue Signal Brave New World had, and all the different writers, and the fact that Malcolm Spellman, who was the original screenwriter for it, was the 4th credited screenwriter out of like 6. How much of his story made it in? I don't know, probably too much. But at the end of the day, they did not have a clear direction of what they were doing. They did not have someone who was able to finish what they were supposed to finish in order to move forward. And the movie suffered for it. The box office suffered for it. And largely Disney suffered for it. And part of this comes from Bob Iger recently openly admitting they've made a mistake. And this is where the "it wasn't fair" line comes in. It says, that wasn't fair. It wasn't right. And it killed them, Gunn's head of Marvel. We don't have that mandate at DC to have a certain amount of movies and TV shows every year. So we're going to put out, So we're going to put out everything that we think is of the highest quality. We're obviously going to do some good things and some not so good things, but hopefully, on average, everything will be as high quality as possible. Nothing goes before there's a screenplay. That I'm personally happy with. And he went on to talk about Supergirl and how he was involved with the screenplay process, but he has not been involved after, which again is like this refreshing thing to think about.
Because to be honest, again, like I said, I think he's a brilliant filmmaker. As long as he is involved in that script, which is, again, the script part we're seeing is the most important part. Doesn't mean that directing isn't vitally important, acting and all that stuff. But if you don't have the foundation, the script is the foundation of the movie.
Right.
Not the directing, not the acting.
Correct.
The script. And if you do not have a good script or a script that is solid, everything else, it's just not going to work. And so I will say, reading that full article, it absolutely does. Again, I've always said I really like him as a filmmaker. Mm-hmm. It actually gave me a little bit more insight to him as a person as well. Because he does get personal with some things. Yeah. He basically called himself immature. In a way,
and to be fair,
so many words.
He was, but when he was immature, that was the style of movie he was making, and he has to grow up. He has to grow up, and to say a 60-year-old man has to grow up, like, whatever. But like he has to take and he has to evolve as a filmmaker in this role that he's in and the type of characters that he's doing, because the DC characters are not the Marvel characters. All right, the last thing like about this. So he's talking about so he says, with Superman arriving in theaters next month, the DC universe is about to launch. Only one other movie in the new franchise has completed filming, which is Supergirl, which doesn't come out until 2026. But the plan is to build out the universe on the big screen with movies about Batman, which is The Brave and the Bold, and the new Wonder Woman. And he says, and this is a quote, "Batman's my biggest issue of all DC right now, personally. And it's not that I'm not writing Batman, but I'm working with the writers of Batman and trying to get it right because he's incredibly important to DC, as is Wonder Woman. So outside of the stuff that I'm doing in the projects that are actively going, our two priorities are finishing our Wonder Woman and our Batman scripts. Batman has to have a reason for existing, right? So Batman can't just be, oh, we're making a Batman movie because Batman's the biggest character in all of Warner Brothers. But because there's a need for him in the DCU, and the need that he's not exactly the same as Matt Reeves' Batman, but yet he's not a campy Batman. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in a funny campy Batman, really. So we're dealing with that. I think I have a way in, by the way, and I think I really know what it is. I'm just dealing with the writer to make sure we can make it a reality. That's really cool to hear. He also says Wonder Woman movie is easier for me because there haven't been so many infinite portrayals of Wonder Woman. Definitely not in the movies, but really anywhere. And there have been of Batman. So I think this is, again, like super promising. He understands that there's all this Batman history. There's all this Batman lore that has been created by multiple creators. You had Burton. You have Matt Reeves now. You had Christopher Nolan. You had 66 Batman. You had, the Batman show. You have Batman the Animated Series, which, I'm sorry, but like if I'm a Batman creator, like that's my gold standard, and that's what I'm trying to match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you're saying, this it doesn't change my concerns for Superman because of what I've seen, not just what I think we'll get, but some of the stuff I've seen. With that said, the way he's going about this, the way he's talking about Batman, Wonder Woman, getting these scripts done, and that the direction of the DCU, I think is actually in a very good place if he can deliver on these as he says. Mm-hmm. It's again, because I believe he mentions here, like, I think he mentioned something about Superman and like how it has to, or how people look at it, perceive it, like, being the starting point. And I think he kind of dismisses it. I wish I would get the quote from it.
It's in the main article. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not in this one. So,
but
yeah.
But I have to say to him, I would say to him, you're fine thinking that this is, but if you don't think this is a massive deal, whether this does good, tepid, or great, I'm sorry, you're wrong. It's because this is going to be that, right or wrong, people are going to see this as the new beginning of a new lot or a new DCU. And again, it doesn't have to necessarily, pull $1 billion, although probably should if it's a really good movie and word of mouth and all that stuff.
Not a lot of DC movies have hit $1 billion.
Yeah. So in that regard, I'm not saying it needs to do that. But and again, I don't care what critics think. The audience has to love this movie if you want to get that momentum going and him fulfilling what he's saying here. Because if not, there a lot of people are going to just check out. Um, let's be honest, because we talk about superhero fatigue, and I'm absolutely that's just a term people throw around. It's superhero fatigue solely because of what he's kind of talking about here with scripts, and what we've talked about for the last year and a half, 2 years, getting people who have no experience and just churning stuff out, generic, no real creative thought to it. So I'm really, I just want good movies. I'm we're we're very similar in the sense of we're not like some of these people who are Marvel or DC or go into wrestling, WWE, and then trashing AEW or vice versa. We just want good shit. That's all we want. It's so simple. Like, I don't care where my entertainment comes from in that sense, whether it's DC characters or Marvel characters or image characters. I just want good movies or good TV shows. I just want to be entertained.
I mean, my preference of characters is obviously DC. It always has been.
Right.
But
yeah.
I love Marvel. I loved Marvel. I loved Star Wars. So
yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the last thing about James Gunn, that again, something that I just found to be just pretty heartening in general is Woman of Tomorrow has been dropped from the Supergirl film because James Gunn dislikes his dislike of long titles with colons. So it's why we're getting Superman Legacy, not Superman: The Return of, Boy Scouts and S curls. And this is just like, there was a picture of the Supergirl logo. It looks pretty cool. I mean, I'm still not crazy about this version of the S because it's from Kingdom Come and it hasn't been earned yet with their version of storytelling. And I prefer like kind of the more classic red and yellow, shield. But, that being said, like, I think this is a cool move. I think this is smart. I think, you want to keep this to like be as, succinct as possible. Like Final Reckoning Part 2, Episode 1, Scene 36 was not a great title for a movie.
Yeah.
So, and we're picking on Mission Impossible for good reason. But
again, for a long time, I would have argued that was the best franchise out there.
It was the best franchise until
period.
Dead Reckoning Part 1. So, I mean, it's like Fast and the Furious was a great franchise until Fast 9 or Furious 9 or whatever it was.
You go back a little bit more.
I mean, 7 was the last great one, let's be honest.
Yeah,
but,
I really like 7. 8 was just...
8 was fun, but...
It was eye-rolling.
It was still fun. It was eye-rolling fun.
Yeah.
I mean, none of them are Tokyo Drift, so... Anyway, all right. Yeah. I mean, anything else you want to add?
No.
So if you're rolling over, in your chairs right now because we have been positive about James Gunn for the last half hour or so, you're welcome.
Well, hold on. I will say this. Here's a negative. Dude, he's depowering Superman. He's nerfing him. Well, so we can that can be argued.
David Cornsweet does not scream Superman to me.
Yeah, like I said, I've seen him in one thing or two things, and he was fine.
I've seen him in 3 things, and I didn't like him in any of them. So.
Well, I saw him in I saw him in Pearl and Twisters.
Pearls
that's all.
And Twisters, and there was something else he was in where he was kind of a douche. And I think that's my big problem with him is he played kind of a douche. David Cornsweet, born 1993. He's just a baby. Where's his IMDb? Let's just look at his IMDb real quick before we move on. So Pearl, Twisters, and what was the thing that he was in? Oh, he was. Oh wait, no, that wasn't it. I thought I saw him in something else. I guess I didn't. Anyway, yes, I've seen him in 2 things too, and I didn't like him in either one of them. So, but yeah, so we'll see. Like, I hope it's not bad, but at the same time, like, you just look at him, like, the suit doesn't fit right. Now, like, if you look at him, he got big. They did him a disservice by not customizing the suit to him.
Yes, 100%. And that's the other thing we can talk about. Yeah. Like, if you want to be in a little bit more of a pessimistic range, like, the suit is terrible.
Yeah. Well, let's just leave the pessimism just at that. It's terrible. It's terrible.
No, I don't think it's not as bad as the new cast of NBA Tonight or whatever.
Oh, I didn't even see who that was.
It's like Stephen A. Smith, Kendrick Perkins, and I'm trying to think, like, who was the other guy? There's one more person.
So it's called RBA Tonight. The Race Baiters Association. Tonight. Kendrick Perkins might be the dumbest person in all of sports media.
He's up there.
I mean, you want to talk about like I feel like the Round Mound of Rebound has some pretty bad takes from time to time. But dude, Kendrick Perkins, like, he is in that Matt Barnes state of just bad takes 24/7.
Yes.
Anyway, did you see what happened to Caitlin Clark last night, by the way?
Oh, yeah, I saw all that.
Dude, what the hell? Anyway, let's talk about Murderbot. You good to talk about Murderbot?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Episode 6, Command Feed. Murderbot and Mensah survived the explosion, but the hopper is damaged. And SecUnit deleted the repair manual in order to make space for the rise and fall of Sanctuary Moon. Best part of the episode right there is when he's like, I deleted it to make room for more TV. Oh, my goodness. When Mensah's having a panic attack, Murderbot calms her down by showing her an episode of the show. They manage to repair the hopper using neural fibers from Murderbot's spinal cord. Meanwhile, at the habitat, Leebeebee, which I was wrong, she wasn't a SecUnit, tries to get more information about the results of the preservation survey. When, how do you say his name? Gurathin? Gurathin, thank you. Refuses to show her the data. She produces a gun and shoots him in the knee, and then threatens the rest of the team. She admits she's not a member of DeltFall, but of a third party. Murderbot returns, and Pink mists her head immediately. Just straight up COD sniper shot, like, done. And so now the preservation team's all mad. Like, they can't believe he killed her. She didn't tell them who she was or who she was working for. And then when he's getting repaired, he muses that they had assumed that it was that he was becoming like them, but in actuality, it felt really good to execute Leebeebee. And it's like, ooh, Murderbot, I like it.
Yeah, I didn't like this one as much as last week's, but it was still, I mean, I gave it a really good rating, but it was still a good episode. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I did in the week since we podcast is I am on book 5 of the Murderbot series. I'm listening to it audio books from actually the library because Audible only had the first one free. Mm-hmm. And so and again, these books are pretty short. Most of them are under 200 pages. I'm actually on the only full length novel one right now. That's like 350 pages. What I like is, yes, there are differences. Like, for example, from the book to the screen, Leebeebee is nowhere in the books. That was just something that they added.
Right.
But overall, yes, there are changes, but again, we have to remember that, when you're doing stuff visually, there are things you have to change.
Yeah. Because
a lot of the humor, is the Murderbot's dry humor. We get some of it with the voiceovers, but in a show, I don't think you can do it as much as you would do it in a book. Mm-hmm. So they have to show things more than Murderbot talking about things
Right.
in his head. So I think it does a fine job that so far in season one. Like, so season one is book one,
Right.
and the translation so far, yes, there are a ton of changes, but when I say a ton, not all of them are big changes. They're just like small things here or there. Like, for example, they never crashed. Him and Mensah never crashed in the book, but they did get stranded, and he did use a neural link or whatever to repair the ship. Yes, he did delete. He did delete the repair program for his serials, but again, it was just more visceral. It was more action, more attention, and I understand that. But the most important thing, they capture the essence of who Murderbot is or what he is, and I think so far they've done a very good job of that. After again, I'm 4.5 books in, I would say, and they do a very good job of. I can absolutely see if this season does well. I actually want to see more.
Well, it's already picked up for a second
I want to
season.
see how they.
So,
Oh, it's all. Oh,
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, are
You'll
you
meet Art.
listening to the Kevin Free versions or the dramatizations where it's like a cast?
No, I'm just using. I'm just no. I'm just. I didn't want to listen to a dramatization.
Oh, okay.
So
I like listening to the dramatizations. They're fun.
I listened to one thing a long time ago, and it was fine. Yeah, I didn't have a problem with it, but I just like this guy's how he the narrator. I like his style, especially with Murderbot.
Cool.
So, and I don't think he's a part of the dramatization. I don't think so. And I didn't realize, after book one, I didn't know there was a dramatization, and I said, you know what, I'm just gonna stick with my boy Kevin. So,
cool. All right.
but yeah, I thought this was another solid episode. I think more than anything, even though I didn't read the books from before last week's episode, it's reading the book, listening to the books that's gotten me more invested in the show.
Nice.
I want to see what they change.
Yeah.
As long as they keep the same tenor, that same through line of the characteristics of what makes Murderbot, and so far they've done a good job.
Man,
So.
I'm listening to Dark Age from Pierce Brown right now, which I'm loving, and I'm kind of like, should I pause where I am because I'm about halfway through the book. I'm a little over halfway done, and go listen to this book, or should I just wait till the season's done and then just listen to everything? So
I will say this too. He had one of the best lines of a show, and it so mirrors what we've been saying about shows and movies. He's like, I don't watch serials to remind me of the way things actually are. I watch them to distract me when things in the real world are stressful as shit. And that's I heard that, and I had to rewind it, and because I wanted to write it down, because I'm like, that was just a perfect summation of what we as people that consume entertainment, whether it be movies, TV shows, video games, books, we want to be distracted. We want to, we understand we're in the real world, but for those few hours, whatever we're doing, we don't want to be reminded of that. And that's why this is one of those shows that I really like, because I can be just it's less than 30 minutes, but also it's just pure entertainment. It's fun, and I don't have to worry about the shit that's going on outside.
Right.
It's just about this show, and that's what entertainment. Yes, some entertainment is supposed to make a point, but stuff like this, stuff like Marvel, stuff like DC, those type of movies and shows, those characters aren't about the real world.
Right.
They're about breaking away from the real world for a couple hours.
Yep. I mean, and that's like, let's be honest, that's why we watch this stuff and listen to it and all that.
Yeah.
All right. So, last thing. out of
Ratings.
Out of 5, where did Leebeebee's head go?
3.33. 3.33 out of 5. It's still, I think it's better than the first 4 that I think that I gave it for, but it was last week was 3.5.
A 3.5, and the
Yeah.
week before that it was a 3, and then the week before that it was at a 10. So you averaged out. You did. Wait, where is it? That was Fountain of Youth. Companion. You gave it a 3. So yeah. I mean,
yeah,
it's still trending upward for you.
Yes, and yes.
So
what do you give it?
Well, why did you give it a 3? 3.
Oh, 1, because 3 sound good, and also Mason Graham is 3-0 against Ohio State, and I just happened to be watching something before we started, where little shit youth campers were booing Mason Graham because obviously Cleveland and Columbus are close, relatively close, and Mason Graham owned them.
I think they live in
player.
Cleveland. Why are they booing anyone? Anyway, I give it a 3.5. I really liked it. I liked this episode a lot. I thought it was some really good Mensah character movement. And I like that Murderbot's finally feeling murdery.
And I'll say, once you actually start listening to the books, there's going to be there are definitely some laugh out loud moments where I'm doing whatever and I just and it's all because of Murderbot. So
very cool. All righty then, let's get on to our last topic of the evening. What we're watching. We have a what we're watching segment. So basically, just as a reminder, these are just different things that we're watching right now. Daryl picked a TV series. I picked a movie. Daryl's is new. Mine is a little older, but still new to us. So anyway, do you want to go ahead and kick it off?
Sure. Yeah. So we're both huge fans of Guy Ritchie. I mean, going back in the old days, with some of the Guy Ritchie flicks. I'm a huge fan of Guy Ritchie.
Me ma, she wants a carving.
Yeah.
She's partial.
Mobland is it's kind of funny because when I first saw Mobland, because it's on Paramount and every other thing that's on Paramount seems to be from Taylor Sheridan, I thought for a minute that it was from him.
That's hilarious.
But so it's about this Harrigan crime dynasty in London, led by Conrad, the patriarch, Conrad Harrison, Pierce Brosnan, and Maeve, his wife, who is Helen Mirren. And it's of course we have Tom. I almost said Tom Brady. Tom Hardy, who's their enforcer. Tom Hardy, who's Harry D'Souza, their enforcer, and this is it starts off with a murder, and then everything else snowballs from there. There's betrayals. There is as with any mob flick, there's a mole. And you think the mole, and somebody gets blamed to be the mole, and then this person gets blamed to be the mole.
Yeah,
it's a lot of that. It's a lot of what's going on. Who can you trust? Who has their own game going on between Conrad and Maeve, husband and wife, who, my goodness, sometimes you're waiting for them to come to blows, and then you have the Stevensons. Richie Stevenson is kind of like their arch enemy, and I don't know the guy's name, but he's been in several Guy Ritchie films. He's one of the guys, if you see his face, you're like, oh, I know this guy. It's the Harrigan kids who have all their own traumas and all their own issues. It's to put it bluntly, it's a clusterfuck of a family, and the show is better for it. I think if you're a fan of Guy Ritchie, if you're a fan of mob shows or crime syndicate shows, you'll want to give this a peek. All 10 episodes are out on Paramount Plus. I gave it a 7.75 out of 10. I thought it was a very, very good show, despite the the intro theme music being some of the worst music I've ever heard.
Yeah.
It's awful. I'm sorry, it's awful.
Is it worse than Def Rebel?
Oh, it's giving them a run for their money. But I found myself after watching the last episode, I was kind of humming the tune, bastard. So, even though I think it's terrible.
I will say this: I've seen the first episode of the show. I really liked it. And before I realized it was Guy Ritchie, I was sitting there watching it with Jen, and I said, this feels like a Guy Ritchie show.
and again, I love the character that Tom Hardy plays. He's that guy in this where he pretty much has the same face, but different, or he has that same level of quiet calm about him, but different faces to show, and his eyes tell the story. Nice. And that's like one of the scarier things, because you have these characters in this show, like I said, Conrad, Pierce Brosnan's character. I mean, he's getting up there in age, and the scuttlebutt is this guy doesn't have it anymore. And then you have Maeve, Helen Mirren's character. She's every bit as crazy and dangerous. And then you have Harry, who never raises his voice in this show. But he means business. And that's like the scary part, when somebody doesn't raise their voice and they just kind of look at you.
Yeah. I think it's funny that you mention his eyes, right? Because when he played Bane, that's all he could do was emote with his eyes.
Yes.
Of course, he had to talk like this and be like, "Oh, hello, Batman. I am born in the darkness, while you, my friend, have been just merely adapted it."
Okay, you laugh like the character from Sky High right there.
Good. That's what he sounded like. So, that being said, it is what it is. All right. So mine is a movie that's currently streaming on Apple TV Plus, and we watched it the other day. It's called Flora Son. And the summary is a tender Irish dramedy about a single mother who starts teaching her teenage son guitar lessons via Skype. But that's not true. That's not what happened. ChatGPT gave me the wrong summary. She starts taking guitar lessons herself over Skype from Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And by doing so, she rediscovers her love for music, and she learns that her son also loves music, but is a pretty sick DJ, mixing buttery beats, if you will. And it's just a really cute story about this mom who is just kind of lost. She's a nanny. She likes having her wine and her cigarettes, and she fights with her kid all the time. She's in love with her ex. There's a really funny scene where she's trying to get him back, and I won't repeat what she said, but you should watch it. It's funny. But yeah, it's just this cute Irish movie. It's a nice slice of life. It's her learning guitar. It's her forming this unlikely bond with Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, who is a musician who is teaching lessons via actually Skype, YouTube, whatever, for $20 a pop. And I think at the end of the day, it was pretty good. And I think if I was going to give it out of 10, I'd probably give it a 6.5. It's on that level. But it's well worth watching. Well acted, great character development. It's fun to see Dublin, and all that fun stuff.
Okay, that sounds like a movie I could get it. Oh yeah, behind.
I mean, it's definitely it's definitely one of those things that we would both like. So it actually stars Eve Hewson, and she does all of her own singing, which is pretty cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you'll remember her. She was in The Nick. She was Lucy in The Nick. I don't know if you watched that one with Clive Owens when it was on Cinemax.
I did not.
It was.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. She was also in Bad Sisters which was another Apple TV show that starred Sharon Horgan from, oh God, what was that Amazon show she was on called? Anyway, but yeah, so I mean, she's been in some things, not a ton of stuff. She was in the Nikola Tesla movie with Baron Zemo. She was Maid Marian in the Robin Hood movie with Taron Egerton and Jamie Foxx, which is highly underrated. But yeah, so like it's just worth watching. It's a fun, like, good movie. Written and directed by John Carney, who's responsible. I think he's responsible for, he did Once. He was the writer and director of Once, which won the Oscar for Best Original Song in 2007.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah, so just go, like, if you have Apple TV, go watch it. If you don't have Apple TV, get a free trial and go watch it. It's fun. Rent it, whatever. Yeah, that's all I have.
All right. So that sounds like, again, Mobland and Flora Son.
Yeah.
Talk about two different type of pieces of entertainment.
Hey, that's what you get from the Infamous podcast. You get different.
Yeah.
So, I could have said Suits because I started watching again. So
you did? Okay.
I'm all the way to season 7 now. Mike's out of jail. He passed the bar. All that fun stuff. So it feels kind of repetitive.
It kind of does. It gets that way.
Anyway, but yeah. So, all right. Well, on that note, do you have anything else you want to add?
I do not.
Next week we'll have more Murderbot, and 28 years later.
Yep.
Very
I'll
exciting.
be going to see that in about 12 hours or so.
I'll be going to see that at some point this weekend or so. Anyway, all right. On that note, thank you all for listening. We appreciate you putting up with us being a day late. I had a bunch of stuff yesterday, so it just made more sense to record today on Wednesday, June 18th. Daryl, happy Juneteenth.
Yay. That's all I'm going to say about that.
All right. Well, on that note, we'll see you all later. Bye-bye.
See ya.
The Infamous Podcast is recorded in Kings Mills, Ohio, just north of Cincinnati. You can find new episodes every Sunday on Apple Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcast, our website, or anywhere podcasts are downloaded. This show is hosted by Daryl Jasper and me, Brian Tudor. To find more information about the show, visit us at infamouspodcast.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Infamous Podcast to keep up with the show. We also have a Patreon page, patreon.com/Infamous Podcast. We have some great rewards for our patrons and are looking for help to grow the show to bring you more of the content you want to hear. Music for this podcast is provided by Michael Henry from meetmichaelhenry.com. So, whenever you're listening to us, have a great day, night, evening, weekend, whenever it is, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.